distinction we want to make is when someone is defending the faith, they're appealing to evidences and reasons why you should believe, why the Christian faith is the only true faith. So, needless to say, you're going to get into reasoning and debates and disputes with men of corrupt minds that oppose themselves, and so we want to be able to, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceits. So what you realize is that there are sort of two veins of thought regarding defending the faith. One is evidentialism, meaning providing evidences. So basically you're arguing in effect that the God of the Bible exists. Well, first you start with a God of some sort exists, and you argue from the cosmological argument. There was cause and effect. There had to be an absolute cause, and so that cause would have to be an uncaused cause, and you argue that it's God. And then the other people may argue the argument from design, that it's obviously we were designed, the world was designed for us, the anthropic principle that if everything was slightly different, life wouldn't exist, and so therefore it was designed by a designer. And some people use an ontological argument, not so much anymore, but anyway, so some people try to prove the Christian faith. They'll say, well, there's a God that exists, and then they'll argue that Jesus rose from the dead, the historical evidence of that. And you're going to hear people all the time say that there's no historical evidence that Jesus rose from the dead, and a lot of them are going to say that Jesus was a myth and nonsense like this. Even atheists like Bart Ehrman, who is a expert in the field of textual criticism and ancient manuscripts and whatnot, he says it's foolish to believe that Jesus did not exist. That's the most well-attested fact, that Jesus of Nazareth was crucified by the Romans. That's one of the most well-attested facts in ancient history. If you don't believe that, you shouldn't believe anything in ancient history. So, but the same documents, which is what the New Testament is they're documents of Christ's life, his death, his resurrection from the dead. Well, the atheists don't accept the resurrection because their presupposition excludes it. They don't believe in the supernatural. So they say, well, there must be a natural explanation because there's only natural explanations. That's their presupposition. So they start with the rejection of God. They start with the exclusion of any supernaturalism from the beginning. So that's their presupposition. Well, an evidentialist is going to be arguing with an atheist. He's going to be throwing evidences for God and for the Jesus' resurrection. The atheist is going to be rejecting that evidence. He's going to be throwing his own evidence for evolution or whatever he's throwing in there. So you got this debate going on where you have the Christian theist and the atheist, and they're throwing evidences back and forth. Well, the presuppositionalism steps in and says neither the atheist nor the Christian theist can provide evidences without assuming that the God of the Bible exists, because evidence could not be evaluated unless what the Bible teaches is true in the first place. So the existence of the evidence of God's existence is the existence of evidence, because evidence presupposes rational laws of logic. It presupposes laws of nature, there are physical laws, and it presupposes moral laws, that men are not liars and deceivers. It assumes that men ought to be tellers of the truth, if you will. So you've got these three types of laws. You've got laws of logic, laws of physics, and moral laws that are dependent upon the living God, upon the Christian God. And atheists start with the assumption that these laws just exist or they're independent of God. Christians ought to start with the belief that they are dependent upon God. They're not independent of God. And so we're going to see how not to be robbed and not to be spoiled by accepting an atheistic view of science, an atheistic view of morality, or an atheistic view of logic. Because if you accept their presuppositions, then they're going to spoil you of your argument. They're going to rob you of your argument, and they're going to rob God of His glory, because there is no wisdom or counsel or understanding against the Lord. The wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. And so we need to demonstrate that through our gospel presentation, through defending the faith, from these types of attacks. So let's proceed.